the Dr. Bullis thing, just a little premature.
Nah.
Dr. Brunson. Maybe I'm too late on that one. Now because at your other churches they used to call you Dr. Brunson and nothing else, right? It was Dr. Brunson.
Yeah, they call me other stuff.
Reverend.
They call me other things. I can promise you that. Probably still do.
The Reverend Doctor. Just a couple of doctors hanging out today.
That's what the president at Southwestern said when I went over to get my PhD. It was the first, he said, Doctor, congratulations, Doctor.
Isn't it? It's like a scene in an old comedy where all the doctors are greeting each other. Doctor. What is that movie?
That started
Spies
though
Like
with
Us.
the Three Stooges.
Oh, it did? As a Three Stooges gag?
Yeah, it's an old Three Stooges gag.
Fire at will. Who's Will? Three Stooges, man.
Oh gosh, they were so funny. I used to get up early to watch them in the morning before I'd get dressed to go to school.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does.
There's, I remember watching those with my dad and the Marx Brothers as well. They were after the Stooges, but it's still kind of the black and white.
Yeah.
I love that comedy stuff. Heavily influenced by
the Little
Vaudeville.
Rascals. I watched that in the afternoons.
It's funny that the little one of the things that lives on in the cultural lexicon is the alfalfa hair. Like when a baby ever has like hair going, oh, look at little alfalfa. Yeah. But a lot of people don't even know where that came from.
He was in love with Darla.
Yes, that's right.
If you ever go back and look at those guys, they all tragically died.
In real life?
Yes, in real life. I mean, Alfalfa was shot.
What?
Like in his 20s. Yeah, he was shot. They was in a fight or something. Somebody shot and killed him. Froggy was run over by a car or something like that. You know, the guy that they called Froggy that had the
that
kind of voice.
That just seems...
Just all
that's
kind
a
of
cruel
horrible.
irony.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
Alfalfa was killed over a dispute about a $50 debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
$50. So.
That's more than, or that's less than Dr. Brown. You remember Dr. Brown?
No.
In Back to the Future 3, who was killed over a
I don't think I
$80
ever,
dispute.
I don't think I ever.
Don't tell me you've never seen Back to the Future.
3. I've
Oh,
not
you've never
seen that.
it.
Yeah.
People say that's the weakest one. You know, I still love it. Our two interns have never seen it. They don't even know what Back to the Future is.
It's
Do
funny.
you guys even know what that is? No idea.
It's funny how 20-year-olds and really even into 30s now, there's so much stuff that was so big to us that they have no clue about.
It's changed. Well, and you run into that sometimes, like you'll on Sunday morning.
I run into it all the time.
On Sunday morning, you'll like reference hee-haw, and everyone, not everyone,
What
but
is
some people
hee-haw?
are like, what is hee-haw? You got to look that one
Yeah,
up.
that was on TV almost an entire generation.
Oh yeah, it was a really big. It's who was telling me? Somebody's teaching school. It was during the Christmas season, and they're playing Christmas music in the classroom. They're playing the Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and one of the students is like, "Wow, this is really good. Who is this?" And the guy's really excited to show them. This is NSYNC, one of the and the guy and the kid looks it up, and he's like, "Who's NSYNC? Why is there an asterisk here?"
That's funny. Are there any, because I don't know, are there any guy groups that are like that are around anymore?
They're all
like today?
They're all K-pop groups. That's what's K-pop
Because I was
from
reading
Korea.
an article
South
in
Korea.
the UK paper about how their boy groups could not break into the US market right now.
From the UK?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I can't comment on that. I know that in the U.S., I guess it was like 10 to 12 years ago, we had a semi-resurgence. We had One Direction, and then there was another one. No, that was 20 years ago. I'm talking 10 years ago. One Direction. What was the other? Do you remember, Joanne?
5 Seconds of Summer. We had Maroon 5 with Adam.
That's not a boy band. Maroon 5, they actually played instruments. I'm talking
5 Seconds of Summer is what he looked for.
5 Seconds of Summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Jonas Brothers.
The Jonas, now that was a cool group, and they're still making music. But no, the boy band thing, it'll come back. I promise you, it's about to come back. But right now,
Do you
it's
think
dormant.
so?
I think it will.
Because I liked them. I thought they had good music.
People love big groups of people singing. Remember, like there was suddenly this sensation with the sing-off on TV a few years ago. People love that stuff. So it's dormant right now, but it'll come back. Jacob Collier's bringing some of that back, like the choral singing. You don't know who he is, but it's okay.
Creed's going back.
Creed never left, as far as I'm concerned.
Creed. Who is it?
Is
Creed.
there
You don't
the
know.
interesting? You don't know who Creed is, really?
I know Apollo
With
Creed.
arms
I know
wide
Apollo
open.
Creed.
Apollo Creed, God rest his soul. Yeah, Carl Weathers passed away this past year.
Yeah.
Creed is so interesting because they like calcified that particular kind of way of singing. What's that?
The constipated sound.
Yes, which that's the thing where it's like Scott Stapp like hasn't been to the bathroom in 25 years.
Oh,
but
my
the guy,
word.
The people. It was really Alice in Chains that kind of did it before that,
Alice
and then
in
he
Chains.
kind of figured it out.
That's what you can build your life on right there. Alice in Chains.
Wait, so
I've
so
never
I'm
in my
sorry.
life, I've never heard of these things.
You never heard of Alice in Chains?
No.
Oh, that was
never.
that was a rough. That was in
Alice
the
Cooper
grunge
now.
era.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they probably would have gotten along with Alice Cooper. Didn't Alice Cooper come to faith? though?
Man, he got radically saved.
That really is
To
amazing.
use a
yeah,
plat term.
yeah, he is radical.
Yeah, he is. I saw him on something just within the last couple of weeks where, man, he was just flat laying the gospel down.
It's amazing. Several people have come to faith recently like that. Russell Brand is another one. I'm sure you've heard about that. He's really his life.
Carrey?
You don't know. Is Jim Carrey coming to faith?
You know, boy, he
A
really.
Very interesting video with where he was basically just laying out the gospel.
Yeah.
And how people need to choose a path of forgiveness that Jesus Christ showed us.
Yeah, something has happened to him. It really has.
Yeah.
Well,
Joe Rogan's very close.
something is. I don't know about old Rogan, but. Something is definitely happening culturally. I don't know how much you've read. I'm sure you've seen it. And it seems like Trump winning the election was kind of when the levee broke, so to speak.
I
Where
wish
it's
he
just
would
like,
just flat out get saved.
Oh, Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And I wish Biden would. I wish all of them would. And let me just leave it at that.
the interesting thing, and it's interesting thing is that like since that election event happened, it seems like people are so much more free now to speak about their faith. It seems to be this like okay, so people still do value.
They do.
They have traditional
Sure they do.
values, you know.
Sure they do.
And so people have this renewed boldness to just talk about the deep things of the faith. And Jared mentioned Joe Rogan, like he had a biblical apologist on this
He
past
did,
week.
yeah.
Did you see some clips from that?
No, but I know who you're talking about. I've got a boy who listens. I've got a son.
Yeah.
He's a man. He's not a boy. Who listens to him, and he'll
Yeah.
send me stuff. Said, "Dad, you really need to listen to this." Or
Yeah, I listened to it. This really young guy, several years younger than me.
that's really young.
Super young.
Just
Doesn't even
a
have
child.
doesn't even have a beard. Wes Huff was did like a gospel presentation, just really, and you'd like him because I'm going to send you some of his YouTube stuff because he's an expert in ancient languages.
oh,
So Paleolithic Hebrew, but then also all of the other languages that were existing at that time. You know, ancient Sumerian and a couple of things that I hadn't even heard of. before.
Akkadian.
Yes, he mentioned that several times, Akkadian. So, and he talks about like the Bible in context of those languages and like the clarity of the meaning of the ancient text and how well it's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
preserved. And,
yeah. He's right.
He is right. Well, and he's a believer. You know, he's not just a secular student.
I had the opportunity to go in and look at some of the actual Sinaiticus.
Oh, neat, yeah.
the Hebrew text that was found at Sinai.
Yeah.
Because there was a monk, there's a monastery there, and there are a few monks. And there was a monk there, the only one from America, and he's from Tyler, Texas. And so I sent word in there, and I said, "Hey, I'm the
about
pastor
that?
at First Baptist Dallas, and man, I'd love to see you." He sent word back out. He said he was in prayers, or he was in something, and he
was
could not come out.
he was texting
No,
while he
he
was
sent a
praying?
guy back
Oh, okay.
out.
Oh,
and the
okay,
guy
okay.
came out and said, "But he told me to take you through the museum here and to get you over to the texts
Mm-hmm.
that were found." There's a great story about how a German archaeologist found. He kept watching these monks start the fire every morning. He had gone there to Sinai.
Yeah.
And he noticed them starting it with paper, and he finally went over and got one. I mean, Lord, it's the Hebrew text. That was what they were using to start
Oh,
the
my
fire
gosh.
with. And so he pulls what he can out of the fire, and he says, "Hey, where have you gotten?" They've got tons of it there.
Yeah.
But to look, and I have a copy, but now it's only about 400 or 500 years old. To see how they
It's so
just
meticulous,
so meticulously copied that text. Well, it would be this way and not
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way.
yeah. Well,
how
but
they
they're looking
so
at you the other way.
meticulously copied that text.
Well, but and even though your copy that you're looking at there is only 500 years old, the point is that it's identical.
Yes.
It's identical to what was copied then, you know, thousands.
Now that's the
before
one that I have in my office. I've got a scroll of a piece of Joshua. But of course, Sinaiticus is much, much older than that.
It really is amazing, and I did some reading last year about the Essenes. You know, it's one of the groups of the Jewish leaders that's actually not mentioned in Scripture, but obviously they know was present even at the time of Christ.
Yeah.
And so
We think John the Baptist lived with them for a while.
yes, that is a really interesting.
Yeah.
Because he checks a lot of the boxes as far as how
Yeah.
they live, living in the wilderness. You know,
Yeah.
the Nazarite vow, just even. Just his radical commitment to those different vows that people weren't normally
Right.
following. Have you read about? I know you have, where they would when they would copy the scriptures. That when they would come to the Tetragrammaton, they would go and completely cleanse themselves,
Yeah.
then
Bathe.
write it, and then bathe again.
Use a pen that's not been used, write it, and then burn the pen. Listen, you
It's
talk
amazing.
about going through something that makes you think about how holy is the name of God.
Yes.
And yet, and I don't want to be ugly with this, how Hollywood has so taken the name of God and affixed it as nothing but a curse word,
Yeah.
and use it with cursing, and they wonder why half the place is burning down
Oh,
right now.
boy.
You know, now you may disagree with that, and I don't know if this is I can't say what is the judgment of God or what is not, but I'm going to tell you something. God said He will not hold them guiltless who take His name in vain. And what they did may have been, exaggerated, but it made you stop and think before you ever
What the Essenes
used
did.
or even wrote the name of God.
Yeah, they definitely had a sense of just
The
like
holiness
you said,
of
the
God,
holiness,
the otherness of God.
and they were radically committed to perfectly writing down the scriptures.
They were.
Each
You're exactly
time.
right.
And then before then, you had generations of people that were radically committed to getting the stories right.
Yes.
Getting them word
Yeah.
for word when oral tradition.
Well, they were used to that oral tradition, and they didn't get off. The oral tradition was. If you want to see something like that, you ought to go to the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C.
I need to go there at some
and
point.
see that. It is fascinating. Take a day. It'll take you a day.
Yeah.
They've got little snack areas where you can get a little lunch in there. But to go through that whole thing is worth the time to go to Washington. It's worth going to Washington for.
What do
And
they-
it is fascinating.
What do they have in the snack area? Like loaves and fishes, manna and
Goldfish.
bird meat?
Goldfish. They do goldfish.
Just goldfish.
They call them St. Peter's fish.
The first time I ever went to Washington, D.C., I remember it pretty well. And I was less than 10 years old, and the reason that we went was because the Dead Sea Scrolls were on tour, and they were there at, I think it was at the Smithsonian.
That's right. You lived in Baltimore, so you were not far from it.
Well, actually, that was when we still lived in Georgia, so it was a really big deal. Like, we went when we were on the way to Baltimore to visit family, and yeah, I remember seeing that and not really understanding what the deal was. But I remember my brother Joel, I guess I was the one that got it. In the gift shop, you could buy a replica. It had a clay pot that the scroll was in. You could pull it out and see. I had that thing for you. I wish I still had it. That thing was pretty cool. I just wish I could have appreciated it at the time, because now I want to go and see all that stuff. I think it's fascinating.
I've got a facsimile that I bought there of the Ten Commandments that is is a facsimile of the Dead Sea Scroll. And it's in between plexiglass kind of deal, and it looks ancient.
Why don't we need to start doing tours of your office? If we want to get this building built, let's just start charging people to tour through.
Oh gosh.
Pastor Matt, Jared, can you get on that?
Yeah,
Just get.
We'll
You've
host the
got.
next podcast from the office.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We used to do that back in the day. Like, we just need to do a show and tell series of episodes in Pastor's office.
Well, this is at my office at home.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, we'll do both.
I can, anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that does sound pretty cool. Well,
Anyway.
so the text itself,
Yes.
Genesis chapter 44.
It lies before us.
I guess you had it does lie literally. It's lying right here before us. Your opening illustration, very helpful, talked about Chuck Swindoll. If the Lord is to use a man mightily, he must first wound him deeply.
Yeah.
Very helpful. You were talking about Joseph, or were you talking about the brethren, or was it both? His brothers.
No, his brothers.
Okay.
Talking about, all the trouble that they had been in when they went down the first time. Of course, I think they had had trouble. These guys were troubled their whole lives.
Seems like it.
They were in and out of Simeon and Levi, who went in and they led the slaughter against the Shechemites, and then of course Judah and
Tamar.
just his,
That's disgusting.
reckless lifestyle.
Reuben with
But
the incest.
the thing that just really spoke to my heart as much as anything was what David said in Psalm 119:71. It is good for me that I was afflicted. Now, who ever prays like that?
Not enough people.
That
right?
But David says, it was good for me. Why? Because I learned your statutes that way. I learned the word of God that way. I know, O Lord, that your judgments are righteous, and that in faithfulness you have afflicted me.
It's almost like that's exactly what the Lord was speaking through Joseph, because he uses Joseph to give the brothers further affliction.
He
But
does.
then brings them to what you called their born again moment.
Yeah, that's what and I forgot to say this in the second service. My mind.
You gonna be all right?
I said it in the first service. I didn't say it in the second service. But this James Montgomery Boyce was a great Presbyterian.
Yes,
10th
yes.
Avenue in Philadelphia. Prolific writer, great expositor. Here he is a Presbyterian, and we would say it's a New Testament term, but we're Baptists. We say it's a Baptist term. Says this was their born again moment.
Right, when they come to Joseph and they actually confess their sin, and then Judah gives the offer, offer to be the substitute.
But since I'm not a scholar, I would be a little hesitant to say that, but I agree with him. And I'm so glad that Boyce said that.
There's clearly a transition that takes place.
Yes.
And you talked about that, how and you've studied this text carefully, read it through carefully, and you can see that this is the first time, well, in the course of this, the back and forth with Joseph, where they own up to the sin.
Yeah, they do. He confesses, and of course he doesn't know that's Joseph there,
Right.
But he's saying this to Joseph, basically, this is what we did. Your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one who went out from me, and I said, surely he is torn in pieces, and I have not seen him since. So he learns at that moment
that was really
how
interesting.
his brothers went back and told his dad what happened to him. I'm sure he must have thought, how did they explain to Dad that I've never come home?
Of course, because he was just in that cistern, that well, and
Yep.
then they take him away, and he doesn't know what his father was thinking this entire time.
No, that's kind of interesting to me.
Oh, it's very interesting to me.
You know, you would think that Joseph would make some kind of reaction right there.
Well, I thought that, doesn't he have to go and remove himself and he weeps
Yeah,
and then comes
we'll-
back?
This Sunday.
Okay, we're getting back to it. So, but in the meantime, he's still testing them. And you talked about how, and this is a continuation of what we talked about last week, and I think it's worth rehashing. You have Joseph, he's testing his brothers. You know, on the surface, it can kind of look a little sadistic. Like, why is he pushing them back and forth? Why is he doing this to him? We thought that Joseph was righteous. But there's a couple good reasons for what he's doing.
Yeah.
The first one, it was testing them about their relationship with Benjamin.
Yeah, he wanted to see if they were still jealous of Benjamin. Or if they were jealous of Benjamin the way they had been so hatefully jealous of him. And so he's looking for that. He's looking to see, how do they respond to him? How do they treat him? Do they treat him the way they've treated me? Which is a normal thing, you know, for him to wonder, because they had been so cruelly hateful to him. And he wonders, you know, do they treat him that same way? Is he going through? If so, I've got to rescue him out of this.
Oh, right.
I've got to
right.
get him out of that before they do to him what they did to me. And he winds up in the situation that I've been in.
But clearly, there's been there's been a transition.
There's been a transformation that has taken place.
So I think
Slowly, but there's been a transformation that has taken place. They want to see that. They want to see, he wants to know, are they still as greedy for money as they used to be? Because they obviously operated just on, you know, I'm not so sure that wasn't the sole reason. Well, one of the major reasons that Simeon and Levi went in and led this slaughter volley, because they took everything they had. They took everything that the Shechemites had, they took from them. Was it motivated by the rape of their sister? Well, maybe that gave them the excuse to go and do this, and in doing that, they enriched
but it was
themselves.
clearly too far, because you have Jacob then saying to them, "You've made me a stench to all
Yeah,
of you."
you've made me odious
Yes,
to all of these
it's
people.
not it wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't a punishment that fit the crime.
Yeah.
They went too far. But that just, talking about all those things just makes it all the more amazing to see the men that they're becoming.
Yeah.
And Judah really leads the way in that. And is there a stronger point that you can make from the text than Judah offering to be the substitute?
Yeah, especially if you go back and begin to look at the life of Judah, because he was they
Piece of
all
work.
were a piece of work.
Yeah.
But Judah really was. He's a natural born leader. He rises to the top. It should have been Reuben. Of course, Reuben was a mess himself.
Right.
But he obviously had very little impact on his brothers, very little leadership. Judah was the natural leader of them all. And so he rises to that position. But here, he humbles himself. He intervenes for his brother. He intercedes for Benjamin. He is basically
Interceding,
pleading
that was
for the
another
boy.
big point,
Yeah.
'cause
He intercedes for him, for Benjamin. And then he offers himself as a substitute. Let him go back to his father. This will kill his father. Let me stay. I'll stay, be your slave. You can do to me whatever you want to do to me, but let the boy go.
It is really amazing the transition that's taken place in his life, to be able to say that in that moment. I'm kind of looking forward as well. I'm getting ahead of myself, but just like, what are you going to preach the prophetic section when Israel pronounces these blessing over the sons?
That's a whole series. No, I won't do that, but it is an entire series by itself.
But that's where he says Judah is a lion.
Yes,
Like that's the first pronouncement, like what we understand is the Lion of Judah. This is the Lion of Christ. I mean, it's fascinating. I had never seen that before, Pastor. When you talked about the two things of Judah interceding and then Judah being the substitute, and the way that points to Christ.
Yeah.
That's just incredibly worshipful to me. To see Christ pop up on every page of Scripture is just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's the best. Did you have anything else about the message?
No, you got me thinking about this thing about
The prophecy there?
Israel's prophecies about these boys, and I just was flipping over. I
Got
need
you
to get away from that, because that would be an entire series.
No, I saw you reading in John earlier. We need you to get to that. crisis
Yes, I
series you're
was.
talking about.
I'm thinking about, I'm still looking at that. You know, how do I go about doing that? So, everybody wants to know, how can you pray for me? Pray that the Lord will give me insight into this series that I want to do on the life of Christ. I don't know what to call it. I don't know how to approach it. I've got a concept of how to approach it, but I don't really, I want to get settled and comfortable and
So pray for Pastor as he's making that
Yeah.
decision. And pray for me while I wait on Pastor to make that decision. Please do that.
Kirkwood would like for me to be 3 years out in advance. Well, I'm preaching this. In 2027, I will be preaching this passage. I wish I could do that. Lord, I know guys that do that, and I don't know how they
You
do
can't
it.
do that perfectly because stuff comes up and you got to do, you know, when
Yeah.
Israel was attacked,
Yeah.
was it 18 months ago? 15 months ago now.
And I switched to sermon on that.
You switched
Yeah.
to sermon on that. That is what the people desperately needed. I think it's still our most viewed sermon of yours.
Is that right?
I think so. Joanna's getting those numbers on her desk, but I'm pretty sure that no, she's not. She's okay. It's all right. She's lost interest.
I'm sending you the title for the price.
For everybody that watches this show and enjoys it, thank you so much, because the people in the office clearly do not. I'm just joshing.
What? No, you're right.
There's truth in every joke. Okay, last thing before we close up. I was amazed you gave the financial update yesterday.
Yes.
That was incredible.
It was beyond incredible.
Not only did people get beyond the budget, but the first fruits.
Listen, let me tell you, and
All right.
before I say this, none of this has to do with me. But 6.5 years ago when I came here, this church was $6.5 million in debt.
In debt, right.
6.5 years ago. We paid that off. As of this past Friday afternoon, Sherry told me we have $7 million in the bank. Now, there is no way to
That's
explain
outrageous.
that other than
amazing.
God's
Amazing
hand on
grace.
the life of this church. And a lot of that is money that we have set back, you know, realizing we did not know when we started setting this back what we were going to need, but
Right.
we know we need additional educational space
Yes.
at this point. So God has brought us within about $1 million of where we think we need to be to pay for it, to build the building and have it paid for. So,
That's really exciting.
yeah, there's $5 million in
One of the big things people can pray for is
Non-discretionary
Is it the
funds.
31st? Y'all have the elders retreat. I know you guys are going to be thinking and praying about this.
We've got
a
an
lot.
architect that will be in here, and yes, do that. Pray for the elders. We had a wonderful deacons retreat yesterday afternoon into last night. It was really good. Great spread of deacons, older men, younger men,
Yes.
some guys right in the middle. Really good group.
Had a couple
really
of-
positive and
It's a really good mix of guys that are coming on for the first time as
Yeah.
deacons, or maybe they were deacons at another church and now they're here. Or
And
it's-
then our Hispanic deacons, who are
Yes.
out of the Hispanic congregation, they're part of our deacon body as
Yes.
well. We don't have a separate deacon body. We have one deacon body.
couple of guys rolling back onto deacon service,
Yeah.
you know, and then a couple of guys rolling off, which is you know, it's a beautiful thing to see, just the passing of the torch. It was special. I didn't get to talk to Chris Johnson on Sunday, but he was doing his last prayer time for his deacon.
Yeah. He
his
came in
deacon
and prayed with
rotation.
me and told me, he said, I'd go. And I had a number of these guys who said, Pastor, we're rolling off of the deacon body, you know, for the year.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to miss praying with you. Could we still come by from time to time? And I've told them, yeah, absolutely, please.
Yes.
You know, so I appreciate those guys that slip in on Sunday morning and pray with me. I really do.
Can't get enough prayer.
No.
Joanna did finally get the numbers on our desk here. Jerusalem Encircled, that message, has the most views on our YouTube page with 19,000.
Wow.
So
How
not
about
bad.
that?
Not bad. So you just need to do a standalone
Well,
message.
boy,
every
when
week.
you think about it, they still are. And, you know, well, anyway.
Just pick
we'll let that go
pick
for
the
another
biggest
day.
news story every week and just preach a message
I
about
can't
that.
do that.
I know
That's
I know that you would just hate that.
There are guys on TV that do that, and I just think, gosh, you'd be so much better off if you'd get a passage and just preach it, instead of trying to twist everything into whatever. There's which when you do that, there is a legitimate way to speak to those things, but if you're doing it every week,
Yeah,
it's just
I'm just
contrived.
I'm being silly.
Yeah, I know.
So what'd your Facebook algorithm share with you this morning? Because everyone was.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
What were your reels this morning? Because you were saying yesterday how it keeps showing you reels of something, and I was.
Yeah,
and you
they
were
were
like, "Does
showing me
any-"
these reels of people going through cemeteries.
right. And
I'm
you were like, "Has everybody else seen this?" And everyone was like, "No,
I
Pastor."
cannot. Have you not
no,
seen
we
it?
have not. We
Have y'all never seen that? How do they choose what comes up on this thing?
It's supposed to be based, it's based on your age, your sex, and your previous.
I'm launching
Based on what
Facebook. I'm launching Facebook right
I
now.
don't
I'm going to
watch
see what
that.
reels it's going to show me. Okay.
There are crazy things that pop. Some of it's inappropriate that they pop up on this thing, but I've got now chess. There's this
You got
chess
chess?
thing that is constantly popping up.
Have you been playing chess at all?
No.
It just knows you're an academic, so
I
I'm
don't
getting.
know what it is. Here's an orangutan, and it puts a lot of orangutan.
That's
The
'cause
dog
you've been-
things I love.
Oh, you know what clip I rewatched recently, and this is props to Jared. Do you remember when you did that illustration about starting a dog church? Mm-hmm. That's a classic. I need to pin that on my Instagram.
forgotten about that.
That was so funny because we were talking about how Joanna would most definitely go to that church.
Yeah.
She would have a great time. It'd be very therapeutic for her.
And see, there's not a one of these. Well, let me go back and see.
Hit the video tab. See what
okay.
happens. Okay, so there you go. We'll turn that down
Oh,
first.
this
okay,
is
so you got a
World War
World War
II.
II
Yeah.
movie. That's
Well,
that's
okay,
pretty on
now.
brand. That's pretty on brand.
And I love these. I
What
love
is this?
Jonathan Winters.
Oh yeah, old Jonathan Winters clips. Okay.
Oh gosh, I love those
All right,
things.
skip
They're
to
so
the
funny.
next one. What else do we
Jonathan
got?
Winters.
Yeah, Jonathan Winters. is up
David
there.
Letterman.
Yeah. Okay.
know.
Pretty on
Bill,
brand.
these are pretty interesting.
Oh, I
too.
love these.
How they build things.
Yes, I can't get enough of these things. Where
Yeah,
it's just
and
like the
look at
machinery carving stuff up.
You
We cut the
could-
feed. We
I
need to watch
could build.
20 minutes of
I
these.
could build most anything if I had all these tools.
I know you just want the tools. Yeah, that's great.
This is
Oh,
kind of interesting. The pawn
stars,
shop.
yeah.
Here it is. Here's one. Here's one. Look, I need a box.
Alcohol, and now they said I need a bottle.
Now, these are people walking through the cemetery.
Okay.
The paranormal couple.
Are you looking for liquor?
Are you looking for liquor? Kimberly. He's looking for Kimberly.
My name's Shannon.
My name's Amy.
Are you the one who said they passed nearby?
Well, you're just gonna get more and more of these now that you're watching that.
Kills. Communicating.
So they say they're communicating with the spirits in
Yeah,
the
well,
cemetery.
you hear he's got this thing that evidently it sounds like white noise, and that you'll hear a word or two there. Well, I am convinced they're picking up radio waves, and in fact, I saw somebody who said, a lot of this is a pickup of radio waves.
I'm sure that it is, and I'm sure that it's all.
And look, there's
heightened.
Joshua Hickson.
Yes.
And Claudia Hickson.
Mrs.
And
Claudia
he's
Hickson.
giving her a little kissy.
Okay.
He's giving her a little kissy.
All right, this is going to get NSFW here pretty soon. We got to get off here.
You
The
know.
grave thing was one, but PDA, we're not doing that.
Anyway, there we go.
Anyway. Oh my
I
stars!
couldn't
Here we
believe
are
it
at the
when
end.
nobody has seen one of
They're
those things.
targeting you specifically.
If they
Why do
were
who comes up with doing that?
if they were Pentecostal, they would have seen it by now. Say goodbye, Pastor.
Have you seen the one of that? Goodbye, Pat. Have you seen the one of that where the little bear, a bear is walking up to a porch, and this little girl is out there, and she says, "Can I pet the doggy?" Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it is hilarious. And the mother's there, and he gets her hand. She says, "Can I pet the doggy? Can I pet the
Oh, my
doggy?"
God.